And so each one of us stands in the situation of Pinchas ben Yair, that when we are trying to keep the commandments of the Torah and a seeming obstacle arises, it could be work appearing to be an obstacle to keeping Shabbat, or a journey that seems to be an obstacle to keeping the laws of Kashrut, or anything of this sort. We say, Chluk bemecha, divide your waters. And what is remarkable, and the reason I mentioned it, is that the third individual who passes, he says, he is part of my entourage, and he will also go. So we see that even sometimes, if we are not even directly involved in a mitzvah, but we associate ourselves with the leaders, generally this should be an active process, but sometimes it seems we're not able to accomplish this. And I say this in the context of today's date, the 10th day of Shvat, which is when the Rebbe of Lubavitch assumed the leadership of the Lubavitch movement in 1951, and he writes that when we attach ourselves also to leaders, so we can also pass the river together with them. They give us this guidance and this power to do so. What about the mitzvah of Pidyon Shvu'im, a redemption of captives, which the Talmud saw fit to tell us not only that Pinchas ben Yair was doing a mitzvah, but which mitzvah he was doing. So the Rebbe explains that this is also great significance, because redemption of captives, is explained in the Kabbalah, is symbolic of our whole purpose on earth, which is that the world was created, and there are godly sparks hidden in all of creation in captivity. And our job is to liberate these sparks by doing mitzvahs. So there are divine sparks in a candle, and those sparks are liberated when I use the candle to light Shabbat candles, for example. And hence, that is why that example was used. And so this follows itself out, and indeed there's a lovely Mishnah in the Talmud in Kedushin, and it says as follows. Rabbi Shimon Eliezer says, have you ever seen in all your life an animal or a bird that has some kind of job, and yet they are sustained without any pain, and they were only created to serve us, and I was only created to serve my Creator. So does it not follow that I should also be sustained without any pain? And yet we see people have problems with livelihood. It says, it must be Haryesi Masai. I have somehow aggravated, not had enough good deeds, and hence Kapaktis Parnasasi, I have ruined my Parnasa, my livelihood in this way. When someone reads it where he says the logic should be that if animals are sustained properly by God, human beings certainly should be, and therefore the only explanation is that my deeds do not make me deserving of the proper parnasa, it sounds kind of punitive. I didn't do something good and now I'm not earning enough to live on. But the haflaw, which is the great Rabbi Pinchas Horowitz, who was a rabbi in Frankfurt, he was one of the teachers of the Chassam Sofer, and he's quoted in this respect, but the Chassam Sofer explains in the following way. It's the same idea. The whole world has an unconscious desire to be elevated, a striving, and so the different levels, there's the inanimate, there's the vegetative kingdom, there's the animal kingdom and the human kingdom, and then of course there's the people of Israel, the priests among the nations, the light to the nations. So as such, the soil wants to be part of the growing of the plant. The plant wants to be eaten by the animal wants to be subsumed and eaten by the person, who will then elevate all the other levels of creation by serving God, by doing a divine commandment. And therefore, when the Jew does his purpose, he is acting like a magnet to all the other forces, and hence attracting the other levels of inanimate, vegetable, and animal to him, and therefore his parnasa, his livelihood, succeeds. But if we were not doing it, we kind of reverse the dynamic, and these things don't have this desire to be subsumed with us. They're not drawn to us cosmically because we are not using it to fulfill our purpose. Now, there's only one question that remains here, and it is as follows, and I will present this question and answer it in the next clip.